I'll call the East Line Board of Selectmen meeting to order. Today is May 18th, 2016. If you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Additional agenda and consent calendar items.
You have one.
I have one.
I'll move to add item 2E, authorize First Selectman to sign letters supporting the New England Foundation for New England Forests and Rivers Fund grant to the May 18, 2016 agenda.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? There's also another one, Mr. O'Connell called me late today. As you remember, we had the fire study. We approved it. It went through Board of Finance, and after a couple of delays, it went through there, went to town meeting. But we never got the authorization for the first selectman to sign the contract, which is kind of a general thing, and I think we do that at the beginning of our annual fiscal year. But Mr. O'Connell, being as conservative and a great attorney as he is, he would like us to have a motion for the first selectman, authorizing the first selectman to sign the contract for JNL Associates, which will be the fire department study for $15,995. I think they actually came $5 under their first bid.
Okay.
So if I could get that motion.
So moved.
2F.
It'd be 2F, right?
It would be, yeah, if you want to put it 2F.
2F.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific.
And I do remember our signing that authorization.
Yes. Yeah. But then
Right.
Finance told him to go back out and
Right.
do an RFP and so forth, so.
So we'll move to delegations. Anyone wish to speak to the commission this evening? Jen?
Jennifer Murray, 7 Tabernacle Avenue. I wanted to hopefully find out through your meeting tonight about the agenda that's been posted for the informal information session for May 25th. That agenda includes what's called a facilities request dated by the Board of Education for May 13th. I came to the town hall today in hopes of being able to obtain a copy of this facilities request and was told that the town hall does not have it yet, that the Board of Ed has not filed it with either the town clerk, the Board of Selectmen, or the Board of Finance. And I was directed back to the Board of Education. I called the Board of Education where I was told that that is not public information and that it's not available for review. It won't be available until the day of that meeting. And citizens will not be provided with copies at that meeting, even if they request in advance for a copy of that report. And in a town where people have been upset, there's lots of rumors flowing, there's lots of talk of secrecy, ad hoc committees, citizens feel like they're being kept in the dark, and this is further evidence that we're being kept in the dark. If I request this report, even if it's not public information now, if I request it as it becomes public information, I should be allowed that report the day that it becomes public information and not have to make a second trip from that meeting to the Board of Education to obtain that report the following day. And I'm also hoping that when the tour is taken with the Board of Finance, and I'm not sure if the Board of Selectmen is going on the tour again,
No.
I'm hoping that it will be a more fair and balanced tour, and I am hoping that the Board of Selectmen does take into account that when you were taken on that tour, Niantic Center was given by an exiting principal. So there was nothing said in a positive manner about that school, merely what was wrong with that school at every turn, but please keep in mind that tour was given by someone who no longer had the job of principal after July 1st of this year and already was well aware that she would not be the principal of that school, but would be principal of the new Lily B. Haynes. The Lily B. Haynes tour was given by a janitor who has a reputation of being extraordinarily proud of his building. And while he does work very hard at maintaining it and is all in all a very helpful, very nice gentleman, when you have one tour that's given by an exiting principal and your next tour is given by a janitor, and then you're taken to Flanders and your tour isn't even led by anyone who is currently affiliated with the school. I think that that really leads to problems with the total amount of information that was provided about all 3 elementary schools. Thank you.
Oops. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? We'll move on. Approval of the minutes, April 20th, 2016.
Move to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 20th, 2016 as submitted.
Second?
Been seconded? Any
Wait a minute, I can't second, I wasn't there.
April 20th.
Second.
There we go. April 20th. Any comments, corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain?
Okay.
Two.
There are
Mark
two.
Salerno and Ms. Hardy.
Sorry. So the approval of special meeting of May 4th, 2016.
Move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of May 4th, 2016 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
There we go. Any comments, questions,
Yeah, the questions get easier as we go along too, so.
changes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention. The consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of May 18th, 2016 in the amount of $1,138.32.
Second.
We have a consent calendar, we have a motion, it's been seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? This, we'll go on to new business. The first is the approval of the Lions lease for Lobster Fest 2016 extravaganza.
I get it. I'll move to approve, or move to authorize the first selectman to sign a lease with the Lions for Oktoberfest 2016.
Oktoberfest?
Lobster Fest.
Lobster Fest.
Okay,
You going to Munich, Kevin?
we're going to Munich.
Yeah,
And
okay.
actually, it's in September in Germany, not in October, but,
Strange as that is.
okay, Lions for Lobster Fest 2016.
Second.
I think you did second it. Any comments, questions? Looking forward to this event. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? 2B is the semi-annual appointment of the part-time police officer, Officer Holmes.
I'll move to appoint Paul T. Holmes of 9R Center Street, Waterford, Connecticut, to serve as a part-time officer beginning July 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016.
Second?
Do we usually strike the home address?
We have, but the last couple times it's been in there. So.
Okay. It's been seconded. Any further comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? 2C is the resolution regarding the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $9 million town and East Lyme general obligation refunding bonds. Let me give a bit of an explanation here. Where Anna's out this week on a well-deserved vacation, now that we're almost past the budget season, our financial advisors, independent bond and investment consultants monitor our outstanding debt for opportunities to refund, refinance, if you will, and save the town money. And once again, they've presented us with information for potential savings from previous bond issues from 2011B and 2012B issues. This authorization includes all potential refunding opportunities with our outstanding debt. Since the market can be volatile, to consider timing issues in terms of office, the expiration date of the resolution was set for July 1st, 2017. The initial analysis for $7,500,000 callable bonds indicates a potential budget savings of approximately $341,640 over the remaining life. And this will be in addition to the $2,259,717,000 in budgetary savings we've already realized with the previous 5 refundings. So this is a way that we do business, and once again, we're seizing an opportunity here to save the town about $341,000 by refinancing, if you will. In bond world, we call that refunding.
I'll make the following, I'll move the following. Move to approve the resolution entitled Resolution with Respect to the Authorization, Issuance, and Sale of Not Exceeding $9 million Town of East Lyme General Obligation Refunding Bonds as attached.
Second?
The motion has been seconded. Any further comment? Questions, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific. The acceptance of cul-de-sac East Society Road is 2D. Am I on the right number?
Yep.
Okay. Just got to check sometimes. The East Lyme Engineering Department has determined that the required public improvements are in accordance with the construction plans for the above referenced section. This is a letter from Victor Benny. Bottom line is, folks, have you been out to, is that East Society Road? That would be East Society Road.
Yes.
We travel down the new and improved East Society Road, we come to a circle before we take a left around that circle and go up to the new apartments. And that's part of the public roadway, that circle. And then once you leave that circle and head up to the apartments, then we're moving into the private development. Is that right, sir? So we have to accept the circle. That was held up when we originally re-accepted the East Society Road improvements because it needed to be re-engineered and reworked. And through some detailed observation over the last week or two, we realized we need to get this done. So Victor Benny has signed off on it. Our planning commission did their work last night at a special meeting to do whatever they're supposed to do to accept the road, to move it to where we are tonight. So we would like to accept the road. Maybe we can read the motion in. If there's any questions, I can answer them beyond that.
Acceptance of road, East Society Road cul-de-sac. Whereas the East Lyme Planning Commission has recommended that the town accept for public highway purposes a certain roadway designated as a cul-de-sac at the eastern terminus of East Society Road, as more particularly described on the map depicting said road, and indeed conveying said road, and the drainage easement pursuant thereto, and whereas the town engineer and director of planning have determined that said road and appurtenances have been constructed and installed in accordance with the town's highway standards and approved plans, it is resolved that the Board of Selectmen hereby accepts as a public highway said road and appurtenances designated as a cul-de-sac at the eastern terminus of East Society Road, subject to the developer's execution and delivery of deeds and related documents as approved by the town attorney.
Second?
It's been seconded. Are there further questions or comments?
Is there any signage to be posted indicating that people are now entering a public roadway and driving onto a private roadway?
Well, they're on a public roadway, so the question is, do we put signage out there to indicate they're leaving the public roadway? So liability changes and the responsibilities of snow removal and, that. I don't know that that's required under zoning. I'm trying to think of any other, like at Spinnaker, when you're leaving 156 and you're moving on to Spinnaker, knowing that that's a private road. We don't require it in our zoning code.
Some of the developers will put them up.
And I know up in Chapman Farms and so
Chapman
forth,
Farms has
I know
one.
they have it, but
Yep.
Spinnaker doesn't. A lot of the other areas, apartment complexes, such as turning off of the apartments off of Hope Street and so forth, they don't have anything to indicate private roads.
We can make a suggestion to the developer the developer or owner that they may want to put private way. If it's your prerogative, your thought.
I think that if it's going to be designated clearly as a public road, then I think there should be an indication that beyond that point, it is private.
It's a private way,
But
private drive.
I think that if it's not in the zoning code, then I think that would have to be at the preference or request of the residents there.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Secondly, now that this roundabout is being approved, where will the school buses pick up the children?
To my knowledge, they'll pick them up in the roundabout still. I think that's where they pick them up now. And we made a special exception where we were still in a build-out phase. but I think the school buses stop at the roundabout. I'm getting a yes from Davey Atten, so that's, again, they won't go into the private development. They would have to stay at the roundabout, which is a public way. Good question.
Thank you for the clarification.
Anything else? I'll move the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? 2E. Folks, I got a call, email, note from the New England Forestry Foundation, who is in the process of fundraising and finalizing the open space parcel that was approved, and I believe it went through the whole process of town meeting and all that, and we are on the hook, we're not on the hook, we voted late last August at a town meeting to appropriate $350,000 of the town's money of the open space reserve account to help match the state of Connecticut's grant of $500,000 and to match the developer / New England Forestry Foundation's fundraising efforts of, I believe, another $200,000 or $250,000. They're going ahead and doing all that, but they're also applying for another grant because there's some adjoining space that moves into the Waterford town line, over the Waterford town line. And that's why when we see the 200-acre parcel, while we know that we authorized our money to buy a 166-acre parcel, we're adding 34 acres of Waterford acreage onto this, and they're going for a grant on top of this. So they are just looking for a reaffirmation of our support for this project to be included in their grant package that is due to leave and be delivered by Thursday or Friday this week. So they asked that they would get a reaffirmation. I am moving that to you if it is your desire to do so.
So Mark, it was pretty much just a change in acreage. They're including the land that's more abutting to the neighborhood.
They're attaching the land that they're also acquiring, which is, again, not part of what we looked at last August and voted on, but there's other land. And again, that's not going to change the relationship we have with this commitment.
Nor the amount.
Yep. Of course. But of course, when we join open space to more open space, that only puts better value and more value, and it makes the open space more effective. So for the preservation of wildlife and the headwaters of Niantic River, etc. Yeah. Do you have a motion there? Or?
I have a motion.
Okay.
Authorize the first selectman to sign a letter on behalf of the application of New England Forestry Foundation for the New England Forest and Rivers Fund grant. And the motion will be to move to authorize the first selectman to sign a letter on behalf of an application of the New England Forestry Foundation for a New England Forest and River Fund grant.
Second.
It's been seconded twice. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? I'll send that letter right out tomorrow morning. Thank you, folks. The last thing I added was I don't have a prepared motion, I don't believe. I'm asking for authorization for the first selectman to sign the contract with J&L Associates for the fire department study previously vetted through this commission, Board of Finance, and a town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And do we have comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
Mark, do we have a start date for that?
Like as soon as I start signing.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah. The contract's in my hands. It's actually in Attorney O'Connell's hands. We're just reviewing that. There's a few things we'd like to get changed for clarification purposes. It's a 90-day study, I believe, and they'll start over the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's no unfinished business, information and reports, so we move to ex officio reports. Mr. Cunningham, do you mind if I start with you if there's anything?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay. Mrs. Cheeseman?
Just two brief things. Along with the first selectman, I attended the East Lyme third grade classes down at Hole in the Wall Beach doing their environmental study day. They looked at all the different surfaces on the parking lot, the permeable, semi-permeable. They had sessions on the beach with people from DEEP, other community organizations, and it was a beautiful day, and a great time was had by all. Last night I attended the Dominion stakeholders meeting in Waterford. They had a gentleman there from NEI, the Nuclear Energy Institute, presenting some facts and figures on nuclear energy, and then John Doherty, John Doherty, who's the vice president in charge of Millstone, made a presentation that brought us up to date on what was going on there, and then Kevin Hennessy, who's the sort of community outreach person, gave an update on recent legislation that was presented in Hartford. It did pass through the Senate, did not make it through the House in the press of business at the end of the legislative calendar, but it would basically authorize Millstone to compete on a level playing field when it came to bidding for long-term energy contracts. They made the point that were Millstone to disappear, it would not only increase our carbon output by 30%. They currently supply 55% of the energy in Connecticut and 15% of all the energy in New England. So they are a valuable asset, both from an energy point of view and a employer, community, good citizen point of view. And that is my report.
Thank you for attending that forum. Thank you very much. Kevin?
Last week I attended a Youth Services meeting and a Parks and Rec meeting. Youth Services awarded three $1,500 scholarships to 3 students at the high school in memory of Jeffrey Borges, a young boy from Salem who met with tragedy about 4 years ago. His mother actually took place in the with the reviewing the applications and that. So they're hoping to continually, on a yearly basis, give at least 3 $1,500 scholarships. So that was very nice, and a lot of work done by the Youth Services Committee to do that. Parks and Rec, if you've seen, the upper lot is now paved up by McCook's. The curbing's in. It's supposed to be lined with parking spaces. I believe 70 some odd parking spaces up at the top that we haven't had for a few years. That should be happening within the next week or so. Parks and Rec crew is working on the raft today, which indicates, in spite of this frigid weather we've had this week, that that'll be put out prior to the Memorial Day weekend. So McCook's is just about ready to go, and obviously the boardwalk is fantastic. So that's it.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Siri. Mrs. Hardy?
The Zoning Commission will meet tomorrow evening. And on a secondary note, I'd like to recognize the contributions of Mr. Wilbur Beckwith to the town. He passed away recently, a lifelong resident of the town. He's volunteered untold hours to the East Lyme Historical Society, very passionate about the Lee House and its preservation, and served several terms as town historian. Another example of an East Lyme resident who gave much to the town. And that's the end of my report this evening.
Thank you for bringing that up, Mrs. Hardy. Appreciate your knowledge and your history and your connection with that, with Mr. Beckwith, and prayers to the family. Mr. Salerno.
Inland wetlands at the beginning of the month. As you know, there was back and forth. There was a cease and desist put on center plan for the that's the solar farm. And you remember that there was a collapse of the retaining wall and some sediment got into the stream. And as you know, Mr. Bialowans was trying to get that fixed. They finally signed an agreement to fix it. All the work has been done. So the commission released a cease and desist on center plan. So that changed. Harbor management. The harbor management plan was submitted to the state DEP. They're getting back. They're supposed to have something back within a month. Once they get that back in front of a month, it's going to come before this commission, in which we'll have to hold a public hearing. So this is updating the plan and then the ordinance too. So we'll be hearing that soon. Right now there's some confusion with the state on Camp Dianic, on the exclusion zone that they want off of Camp Dianic. they have some buoys there to say it's exclusion zone, you're not allowed, but the DEP is saying, no, they can't do that. They have to get permission from us. So there's some confusion right now at the DEP. So we'll find out soon where that lands. Planning, I covered.
Before you go on.
Yeah.
With the buoys are out there, but may the public still walk on the side access part where they've
They say no.
traditionally been allowed to?
Right, they say no, but of course anyone could walk potentially on the low tide area. But it's gone back and forth. I've heard many things from Camp Niantic. And the latest I heard is they said, well, we're going to put the buoys up to discourage people from going there. We can't necessarily have people going there. We're not going to necessarily, nobody's going to be arrested if they go in there with a kayak. And then they told us, well, their real concern was they didn't want moorings in there. So I think that's in the exclusion zone, which is in the plan for no moorings. But that's where the DEP is trying to figure out. But earlier on, the DEP, when Dick Morris went out to put the buoys up, the DEP said, yeah, you can do it. But now they're saying, well, maybe not. So it's a little bit of confusion up there. So hopefully we'll have that rectified.
I'll talk to you after on that. I just want to get some clarification. If what I heard was the National Guard is still allowing people to walk, and I think this is Mrs. Hardy's question, below the high water mark. And
Below the high water mark, I think, yes.
That has been
Right.
public access for
That has
clamming,
been for a long
fishing,
time.
Yeah.
Right, and there's a lot of concerns by the residents.
That
on
hasn't
issue.
changed.
Okay.
To my knowledge, are you telling
Well,
me different?
no, I believe that's the case.
Okay.
But there's been miscommunication for the
Right.
last year on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think what's going to happen is, based on what we heard from the DEP and some others, I think that's going to be the case. That you can walk on below the high tide mark.
Okay.
Stay tuned for that.
I think that really needs to be clarified
Yeah,
for the
it's-
residents in that area.
Yes.
Especially as there are a lot of summer people that come into that area. And I think before we get into June and a lot of people come down for extended periods of time, it really
I think
needs to
that's
be
one of the things
clarified.
that the Joint Land Use Study is going to look at
I
as
was also
well.
looking at that.
Is
Yep.
looking at that too, because obviously you don't want to deny people, but, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll
I
make
mean,
sure
we're
we get
hoping
some
it's
clarity on that.
just the moorings into that, but hopefully that'll be crystal clear when we get everything back from the state.
Thank you.
Yes, planning. I went to planning for Holly a couple weeks ago. They had an intern that was from Eastern Connecticut College. His services were free. It was an internship through the school and stuff like that. So he provided, he did a big analysis on the GIS system and went through a pretty extensive study that he did, he marked all the sidewalks in GIS. He went through, mapped crime in the GIS system, so you can see where the crime is occurring in town, got all the police records and stuff like that. Pretty extensive, pretty interesting. If anyone's interested, you can get a copy through Gary. He also did a section of town and actually mapped all the storm drains, which could be of use for future planning.
Yep.
Not the whole town, but a portion of it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was pretty much what we did. And then the meeting yesterday, I think, was probably the quickest planning meeting on record. I think it was 10 minutes, I've heard.
That is a record for them.
That would be a record. Board of Ed, I got to spend the Board of Ed on my birthday. We got started with a concert from the middle school strings, which was pretty cool. We don't get that here. But anyways, they appointed an interim director of special education. There was some lengthy discussions on transition plans if the new school plan goes forward. That went back and forth. There was spirited discussion on the elementary school plans as presented, on what they want to present to the Board of Selectmen. That went back and forth. I let the commission know that we have not seen anything, but we are prepared to hear anything they want to bring before us, and they will get the